So let's take a look at a live site. I like Boing Boing. So it's a basic blog site, right? But there's a lot going on here. There's an ad, there's a header, there's a above the header, there's articles, there's a sidebar. It's laid out on a grid, so it's nothing that's completely wild. It's very hard to design off the grid for the web, and so it makes sense that it's been designed on a grid. So let's take a look, as we can always, at the HTML for this page by just going in Firefox by going to View, Page Source, bigger, and we don't need the validation. You'll see that there's lots of warnings in their validation. It's having some issues, but that's okay. I'm going to turn off the validator for now. Open it up a little, make it a little bigger. Alright, so let's run through this. We won't do the whole thing because it's a huge page, but some of the high points and point on some things that we haven't talked about. It has a doc type, and it declares the doc type as HTML 4.01. It has this, which is a comment, and it's highlighted in green. If you start with this tag and end in this tag, it does absolutely nothing at all to the site, but it does allow you to put comments in for someone who looks at the source to read. So here they've done a quick byline within the source by using comments. Then we start HTML, the main thing. It starts with HTML, and at the very end, it ends the HTML, right? Just the way it's supposed to. Then we have the head section. The head section runs from line 10 all the way down to line 68, much bigger than the head sections we've done before. It does have title, which is the one thing you have to have required. Now it has a tag, but it also has some tags we aren't familiar with. One is meta. Meta provides metadata about the site. So, for example, it provides a Google site verification. It lets you know what the content type is. You might also have some things in here that provide keywords or descriptions that search engines traditionally used, although they very rarely do these days. So we've got some metadata that we could include there. We've got, for example, a meta that tells us what the generator or content management system is, and it's generated by Movable Type Pro. We also have a tag here that we'll run into next section, link, which links us to the external site. And so this provides us with an indication of where the style sheet is, where an alternate style sheet is, a whole bunch of stuff. We have script, which we won't be putting in the site itself, but this is JavaScript that's being placed in the head so that it can be used for various display uses. And that's the end of the head section. We have the beginning of the body section. And we start off with our new tag that we know, div. And actually, if you look down here, you'll see that that div runs all the way down to here. It runs all the way down to the bottom of the page. There's some scripts down here that have been added in, but the div runs for all of the visible page. So there's reasons for that. We'll talk about it. It's a fairly common thing to do. Let's find ourselves again here. To have a container, and often it's called container, to have a div that contains the entire visible page. And then there's a div container, and then there's an element here that starts the header, and the header runs quite a bit, I think, down to here. And this lays out the header of the site. So this is, again, marking out large sections of the site. There's more script. They've got lots of script hiding in here in various ways. There's an image tag. In this case, it's saying that it has the height and width. It has at least the height. This is actually not very useful. If you're going to have it, you might as well have both. But it links to some of the thumbnails there. We have an H4, so they've gone beyond H3, and it includes a link, a href equals. We haven't run into the style attribute, and I'm going to try to avoid that, but I'll talk about that in a bit. That's the end of that H4. Here's a paragraph with a link in it. Here's another div for the display, and this div includes a link and an image. We're not seeing the whole thing here because it's running off the screen a bit, but you get the basic idea that we have a lot of H4s, a lot of A's, some paragraphs, A's, image tags. Basically, these are tags we've seen before. Here's a bunch of images that have been made into links by being put inside of the A tag. So you can make images into links by starting with the A tag. That's the link tag. And then instead of text in there, they're using an image. And then it ends in an A tag. So you can make images into links as well. These are a bunch of divs being closed and a bunch of new divs being opened. And eventually we get into actual text down here somewhere. So here's a quick piece of text with a link in it as well. And there's more text down here as well. Here's a paragraph with text, starting with a link. So basically you can see that divs make up an important part of, in fact we've seen almost exclusively divs here. This one is a div with an ID of entry 69716 and a class of entry asset and H entry. So we can actually assign multiple classes. That's the other difference between an ID and a class. You can assign multiple classes to a single section of text, or whatever, a single section of the page. So you see that IDs and classes and divs make up an important part of the page itself. There's a UL, the end of an unordered list, or the beginning of an unordered list, and a bunch of ads here down on the bottom. Maybe it looks like ads. No, other articles. It looks like previous articles, all listed out with a list of links. So I wasn't trying to get anything particular here, other than to say we've covered the tags that are the most common tags, the ones that you're going to see most frequently. And so from here, it's just a matter of adding those together into a useful whole. Time to move on to making it look good. So we know how to do the content now. Our next step is making it look nice on the screen, or making some suggestions to the browser in how it might render the materials. See you then.